Hello and welcome to week 43's content episode. It's been a dramatic week for France and the UK, and that's beyond the football. But we have an interesting panel of guests, a little different, to take us through this week's content and possibly beyond as well. We have, as you'd expect though, AirJapes. Hello, welcome back.
Thank you much, Ben. Happy to be back.
Good to have you back. And we also have, relatively familiar at this point, Nepenthez. Hello, welcome back.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's good to have you. And we have Kimpembro as well. Nice to have him back. It's been a little while.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. It has been a while, actually. Good few months, but yeah, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Right, let's dive straight into it. I want to do pound for pound to get that done, and then we can talk more broadly about what we've made of the live content around the Euros, and maybe a few pointers as we head towards the sort of end game for content. So yeah, who have we got for pound powerhouse? So this is the best value player that's been released roughly over the past week. Can be a little longer. They can be through an SBC objective, or they can be available on the market. They can be an evolution player as well, I should say. So yeah, Kimpembro, aka Jason. Let's ask you first.
Well, I'm going to go for quite probably an obvious one that was released. Was it yesterday or a few days ago? Weghorst. Sadly, I think they've introduced another, broken player, really. From what I've seen from, a lot of the gameplay, he just looks very, very good. And he's like 370k or something, so really cheap for what he offers. And to be fair, if Netherlands go far, if they win the lot, I mean, he's like 98 rated or something like that. So yeah, he's a good choice.
Yeah, I knew he'd get a nomination, and actually it's worth noting he is, I think, out maybe for almost the whole tournament. So if you're not sure and want to see if he gets all his upgrades, then you could do it if you want. Right, let's move on to some other nominations. Let's hear from you, Nep. Who is your favourite this week?
I'm not going to actually pick someone. I know you like to have new players and stuff, but I'm going to pick somebody that's upgraded a lot since he was released, so it's kind of new, and that's the Borja 95 rated striker. He is only 4-star, which I know makes people lose their mind that he hasn't got 5-star in one category, but he's been added aerial plus, power shot plus, 𝘵𝘃𝗧 plus, rapid plus, a whole host of other really cool play styles, and I favour power shot plus as a play style, and he's 6 foot tall with aerial plus, and he's literally got ridiculous stats in the right areas. And he's only 38,000 coins.
Yeah, and also you mentioned the 4-4 thing, but if they win the semi-finals, he does go to 5-star, doesn't he?
He does.
They're playing Uruguay, Colombia, which is going to be a tough game, but you never know. Anything can happen. And I agree, the stats are just kind of ridiculous, so one to keep an eye on for sure. Nice nomination. Let's move us on to Japes then. Who are you going to nominate?
Well, let's just stay with Colombia. We'll take the center back from, where does he play? Bologna? Lacumi?
Yeah, I think it's Bologna.
Yeah, Lacumi. He's got jockey plus, block plus, anticipate plus, aerial plus. He's left-footed. He also has power header, incisive, pinged, long ball, and press proven. What a great player. 99 base, short and long passing to go on that too, with those stats, and he's like 30k.
Yeah, wouldn't have expected so many Colombian players get in there, but it's good to see. Actually, I'll do the pound for pound from a listener, actually. This is, very much against the rules, but I'm going to allow it. 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘦 here goes for Team of the Season moments. Firmino, Team of the Season 𝘵𝘍𝘐, and Team of the Season 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘦 have been nothing short of incredible for me in the Brazil objective in Champs. Currently 7-1, and this week has been an absolute breeze thus far on account of those three. That Firmino card with first touch plus, finesse plus, and incisive pass plus is nothing short of sensational. His body type is unreal for dribbling, absolutely cooking meta defenders in Champs. And actually, I've used him. I packed him. I actually got him in one of those picks, I think. And he was really, really good for me. I'm not using him anymore because he's a little awkward to get in. But yeah, was so fun to use. Just as he says, the first touch plus, finesse plus, just taking little touches with that first touch and then instantly finessing. Just really, really nice to use. Enjoyed him a lot. So it's a good nomination. I want to move us on though to picking last week's winner. And we can go to Jason for this actually and ask you who should win last week's pound for pound. The options were the Make Your Mark Johnston, Canadian, the Greats of the Game Alonso, the Greats of the Game Puskas, the Greats of the Game Rijkaard, or the Greats of the Game Shearer.
That's a tricky one because I've not used Johnston. So it's kind of, I don't want to rule him out, but I've not used him.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
I think 𝘵𝘀𝘀𝘁 is too obvious because he's actually unbelievable. But I think if you're going to look at like value and what you get, I'm going to go over Alonso. You get like about 160k and he's like a really, really high level centre midfielder. That 99 shooting they added on top of his like 97 passing. He's just very, very complete. The only thing he misses is his 4-star. But if I had to pick one of them without being the obvious one with 𝘵𝘀𝘀𝘁, I'd go Alonso for you.
Interesting. I was going to say actually, 𝗫𝗫s, Rijkaard got his 4th PlayStyle Plus, didn't he?
Yeah.
But it was tiki-taka.
Yeah, what a letdown. Like,
yeah,
this is one of those where EA's like, look, now you can play him as DM too. Look at this. And everybody's like, yeah, but look at all these other like 90 across the board players that have 95 plus dribbling that are DMs. Like, he's a CB. Let's give him, if we're going to bump one of those, give him Fox or the Trash Panda Plus or Jockey Plus, or even give him like Bruiser Plus. Just let it happen. Why you got to do that, EA?
Yeah, it kind of brings us on to a bit of a theme, which is EA's penchant, should we say, for giving players not very useful playstyles or quite poor playstyles when they get upgraded. And I was just going to challenge everyone here to come up with one that's actually been a positive addition to the player. I think there are a few, but most of them have been like, a slide tackle plus or something along those lines that, maybe people weren't too interested in. I noticed that 𝗪𝗀𝘀𝘁 got Trickster, which, considering people don't really use it, is probably quite good because I'm fed up of facing him. But yeah, any comments on PlayStyle Plus additions that people have liked or disliked?
I don't mind Trickster actually. It like if you want to like sweat the game and play like an incredibly broken mechanic, Trickster into either Finesse Shot Plus or Power Shot Plus is so broken, and especially if you got acrobatic and on old gen, you can Trickster into like a really high like bicycle kick that the keepers can't save.
Yeah, interesting. So on old gen only, you're saying?
It does work on new gen as well for the bicycle kick stuff, but it's not as prominent as it is on like old gen. But on new gen anyway, I've scored some cracking goals with Trickster Plus into power shot volleys.
Yeah, that's actually, I enjoy it as well. I think it's quite a fun play style. And yeah, as you say, you can just catch people out with it as well. And the shooting, if you have like acrobatic for the volley boost as well, it can be really good. But yeah, I think people don't tend to use it that much. But
they don't, yeah.
I noticed Weghorst got the First Touch Plus added. It only just come out, obviously. And actually, that's probably quite a good one for him because, if it wasn't going to be Press Proven Plus, First Touch Plus is going to help him out quite a bit.
Didn't 𝘃𝑣𝘃 get Intercept Plus?
Yeah, which was good for him, I think.
Yeah, no, that was really good for him as well. He's a bit of a pain to play against for that reason, actually. I always notice Intercept Plus players just picking up these really good interceptions. What about you, Jason? Any thoughts, comments on the upgrades we've seen?
I was really hoping to see that Araujo card get a, Anticipate Plus, but it didn't happen. I can't remember which one he got, but it wasn't the one I was after. I think he might have got a long ball, which is really good anyway.
He got Intercept Plus, which I actually think was really good.
He got Intercept Plus,
yeah, because he didn't have any Intercept at all, not even the base version. So that actually completed the full sweep of defensive playstyles for him.
He's so good, honestly.
And yeah, I actually now do regret not doing that. Whereas at the time I was thinking, it could be a not particularly amazing card if he didn't have any version of Intercept, but now he does. He's a top tier defender. Which, yeah, is interesting. It seems like they're being a bit more generous with the SBC players, I guess, because, they've already expired. Although, actually, Diaz, he got Chip Shot Plus, didn't he? So
he did get Chip Shot.
Not ideal.
I just wish we knew how they decided to do this. Like, how are we deciding these other play styles?
It looks random. It looks very random, that's for sure.
But that's what I'm saying is, like, if it is a random thing, like, do some, like, random, I don't know, like dice roll content or whatever around the player getting their playstyle selected. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it's going to be random, like, make it interesting. If it's not going to be random, which I don't think, like, personally, I feel like they're like, we don't want to give that playstyle, so let's pick like this one. That card's like already really strong. Then it's like, well, just tell us that it's going to be one of these 3 play styles or something to begin with. Yeah. It's one of those pieces of content that like is easy to get hopeful for and is like the upside for EA would be to hit on that hope sometime, but it's like so rare that it happens that it just becomes like, now I've just started discounting the other playstyle plus. I don't even think about it with the card.
And they could say on the SBC, like in the description, this player will receive a intercept plus playstyle should they get their playstyle upgrade.
Well, they have the different categories. So you could just put like this player will receive like a defending playstyle, or this player will receive a passing playstyle plus. Do you know what I mean? Or like up to one of those. So it still feels like a little random, but people are like, oh, okay. Well, if he gets one of these passing playstyles, or like, oh, at least he's getting a passing one, like that's good.
Yeah, it's also just been random whether they've given a playstyle an upgrade to a plus, one they already have, or they've added a completely new one. And I agree, there just needs to be much more transparency on this because it really takes the shine off a lot of good content if an unexpected bad playstyle gets added. Let's take a break there because I want to come back and talk about some of the other content we've had, SBCs, etc., in just a second. Hello and welcome back after the break. Before we kind of go through the SBCs that have been added over the last week, I would be interested to know from the guests here who they've committed to SBC player-wise over the last week or two, or basically the ones that are still out at the moment. Let's come to you first, Jason, actually. Are there any players that have taken your fancy so far that we've had? And, would you recommend them to listeners trying to use up their fodder?
I've not committed to any big SBC. So I know that Cafu's the best right back on the game, but I've got I just can't commit 2 million coins worth of fodder to a right back for me. I know he's like Endgame, but I just can't do it. But Casillas is probably one of the best keepers on the game for a really good price, so I've done him. But in general, really, I've kind of steered away from the player SBCs because I don't think there's been any that have really been amazing. Obviously, Weghorst I've done because that's just a situation where I don't want to miss out when he when he's terrorizing me in weekend league. But in general, no, not really. I'm trying to kind of steer clear of these really big icon SBCs, especially as we got like footies or whatever's confirmed, not quite confirmed, but whatever's due to come around the corner. Usually the player SBCs are a bit better. But in general, I don't think the player SBCs have really excited me too much over the last couple of weeks.
What about you, Nep? Have you committed to any of the SBCs we've had recently?
No, I haven't. I think some of them have been decent price, mostly the flashbacks and whatnot. But other than those cards, I honestly think that their price points of SBCs have been literally just moronic. Like when you can get like Puskas and Rafinha and Kroos or Gerrard, and you might have already had like Ardagula and 𝘵𝘂 that were very good SBCs, and Darwin Núñez that was a very good SBC, and as we've already discussed today, that Ronald Araujo, and then they're releasing Diogo Jota for like near 1 million coins worth of fodder. It's like, come on, man. So who wants to pay that?
Do you want to talk about like instant pain and regret?
Go on.
I did Figo.
Oh, yeah.
Like almost right away. Because I used that Thunderstruck version of Figo with great success for a long time earlier on this year. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to bring it back. I want to do that one more time. like, this is a fun card. Like, Technical Rapid is an interesting combo. Pinged is fun. Like, there's some nice play styles in there. He just MIA. What a fraud. What an absolute fraud. And then I watched halfway through the SBC, Portugal loses. I was like, this is...
Yeah.
One of the problems, not problems, I suppose, but one of the other things to consider for me with some of these SBCs, like the Henderson and Grealish and stuff, is like, we've currently got like 4 or 5 evolutions that are free that take cards up to 95 rated that you can actually get some really cool cards out of. So again, it's like who's really caring about a 93 Henderson? Like I'm open to them having the card there, and I actually think it's like not an awful price, but just make him like 96 rated, and if he gets upgraded and goes for 98, who cares? It's going to be footies anyway. Like I get it, like earlier stages of the game, they don't want to push that power curve up too high, but people's teams have gone beyond that at this stage.
I do think as well with the addition of playstyles, the boost for showdowns is pretty minimal, really, isn't it? It's like a couple of stats here and there. They're not seeing any significant change in their ability to play for you, basically. I think the showdowns particularly are kind of, I suppose, there for maybe newer players to pick up options, or just for fodder, I guess, because, they've not been particularly like compelling from a gameplay sense. Although I'd say similar, honestly, for this Lisandro Martinez. I don't know whether anyone's taken a look at him, but, as a United fan, was considering completing him, but I just think someone of that height not having Aerial Plus, obviously. He doesn't have something like, I don't know, Quick Step just to compensate a bit for the fact that he's not so good in the air. He doesn't have Anticipate at all, which is a bit of a shame. And he could get an upgrade to 5/5 or +1 overall, but again, is that going to make a particularly big difference for him? I don't think so. It's a bit of a shame because I know a lot of United fans have been looking forward to some version of Martinez this cycle. This is literally the first one, and it's a little bit disappointing, which is a bit of a shame. But, they can go off and complete one of the various Liverpool SBCs that we've been having over the last few weeks. Yeah, and actually, I was going to mention, I know Casillas is a good option. Did you do him, Japes? I know you're a big fan of Casillas.
I have Schmeichel. So, and Schmeichel's very, very good. So if I hadn't gotten Schmeichel, then I would have been I used Thunderstruck Casillas for 90% of the cycle. Like I said, or from the time I packed him when he came out, and he just never left because he's the best keeper in the game, or he was. So I'd be all over this Casillas if I needed a keeper, but I don't. The Schmeichel was way better than I was expecting him to be.
Fun fact about the goalkeepers before you move on, is how they haven't upgraded reactions for goalkeepers literally ever. And that's why Pickford and stuff are terrible. There's one goalkeeper in the game, Oliver Baumann in form, got a +4 to his base reactions.
What? So that shows they could actually do it if they wanted to.
They can do it if they want to, yeah.
Yeah, he did. Huh. Unless they've finally fixed it. No, that was a while ago. So
yeah, it was ages ago, yeah.
That's so weird. But yeah, that is a good point to make, actually, because Casillas has very good reactions, and many goalkeepers don't have great reactions, so worth mentioning. The other player I wanted to mention was Lizarazu, who, France are just not scoring goals. So
yeah, I'm still waiting on my Petit upgrade.
Yeah, whether he gets any upgrades. And 𝘵𝗍𝗍 as well would be nice with an extra PlayStyle Plus, right? But he hasn't got an upgrade. But I think looks really good. I think Intercept Plus and Quick Step Plus is really nice on a fullback. He has Base Relentless as well. The Long Pass Plus is good. And yeah, I think just a really nice option. It's just a bit of a shame that, he might not get any higher rated than that. Right then, that's the SBCs done and covered, apart from maybe the 91 plus Encore hero player pick.
My feeling with those is if they're going to do that, that's fine. Just put a fantasy Evo in there permanently or something. Do you know what I mean? Just let those players, give them some additional playstyle pluses and stuff, and make every fantasy player eligible. So if you decide to do it, then you at least have a path to make the player relevant.
Yep.
Do you know what's crazy with it though? Is we're talking about dropping fantasies out of the pick. The fantasy options are better than the Golazo options. There's one Golazo player worth anything, and that's Ginola. At least with the fantasies, you've got a slightly broader with Schneider, Lucio, Company, players that are not necessarily going to get in people's teams. But Golazo is awful, genuinely awful. You might want Alawaran, but that's it. The problem is fantasies and Golazo are generally terrible.
I think a lot of the community as well is very confused by understanding why certain players are still worth a lot. And it's some of those heroes are worth 300-400k, not because there's any demand for them, but because there's literally no supply of them tradable. And so their price is just going to maintain high, when if there was a reasonable supply on the market of them, there'd just be bottom feeder prices, a lot of these 95 festival foot cards.
Yeah, it's a good point. The Path to Glory players we've had and the Make Your Mark players, if you compare them stat for stat and playstyle to playstyle with some of these past promo items, it's kind of crazy, the difference. And they're much easier to get into your team because the chemistry element too. So that's a good point. It's worth considering that value doesn't always equal the value you get on the pitch with these gamble SBCs that we get.
The greats of the game heroes, they're at probably their most realistic price because the supply was good on them. Manneman being 94 rated, 5-star skills, 50k. Kessler, 5-star, she's 75k and she's 94 rated. And they're miles better than anything you can get in fantasy and Golazo. So
people do the gambles because they're hoping for the big player that they're never going to be able to afford. And so they know, I know if I want, I can play one weekend league and go out and get McManaman. That's cool. But am I going to get Ronaldinho? I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah. Right. Let's move on to talking evolutions, and we've had I guess a somewhat interesting week for evolutions. We had the 𝘃𝗀𝘃 evolution, which is for Brazil players. That was free, and there were some pretty good options. I do think both versions of 𝘃𝘀𝘃 were very good and would make a lot of people's teams. But, as we've talked about before, the supply on these players isn't particularly high, and a lot of them will end up extinct. So you kind of have to just be lucky enough to have one in your club that you can use and upgrade. But we also had 𝘬𝘯𝘬𝘦, which is one of these small upgrade evolutions. It's not particularly amazing in that it's just giving +1s generally, maybe a +2, I think. Yeah, +2 for pace, +2 for shooting. But it does allow you to upgrade any path to glory player with max 94 overall and max 4-star skills. Any thoughts on this one? I don't know. I do think these are a bit of a waste of time in my view. Not in terms of the waste of time for people to do them. If you have a player you like who fits, obviously do it. But I just mean in terms of EA's bandwidth to complete evolutions. I don't know what these are really bringing to the table.
Oh, I think they've got to be so easy, and it's just like free content. It's like a daily upgrade SBC.
Because they don't even have to think about them, and they can just...
Yeah, you don't, like, there's not much to think about there, right? Like, you're not going to game break anything. You've gated it around cards that have probably already been eliminated. They're not going to go up anymore. Like, I'd love to throw 𝘭𝘪𝘀 in there if my game wasn't, like, glitching around Evos right now, because, like, I'd take an upgrade on those for 𝘭𝘪𝘀. Like, why not? I like using him. It's not going to be like, oh no, like now 𝘭𝘪𝘀 is going to be as if Germany won the tournament. It's not the case.
What do you think, Nep, about the playstyle selection for that Festival of Football 𝘬𝘁, which is 100k and upgrades to silver basically to like mid-90s?
Listen, it's actually not bad. I think if you like to play that kind of big man knockdown meta, it's great for that. It's really good for that. The thing I mostly don't like about it is it's 100,000 coins, which is just ludicrous. Because you just go and buy like 5 players that are just like on that level. But if there's a player there that's from a club that you support or a nation that you've been like building an Evo team for, then superb. I would pay for it if there was a good Arsenal fit. But what I like don't like about it isn't, I don't care that they've got it at like max 0 playstyles at the start or whatever. It's like these silver cards generally have like no base playstyles. So you're only getting everything that's been gifted in the total upgrades. And it would just be nice to have a little bit more actually regular playstyles gifted rather than just playstyle pluses. Like I'd happily take 3 playstyle pluses, like lose 𝘃𝑚 plus off of that and instead give me 3 or 4 base playstyles extra.
Yeah. You're totally right. It's something I was going to mention about these. I think I looked, and because it doesn't give press proven, and really you're looking for like a big player here, like a kind of target man type player, it really means that you're relying on these players to have just exceptional dribbling stats to compensate for that if you are looking for a bigger player. Whereas if they just offered press proven just as a regular playstyle in the selection of playstyles, there would be way more options I think will feel good on the ball. There is one player I think that I would maybe recommend if you're looking for a target man. I think it's 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘃, who already has press proven on his silver, and as a result actually does look really good as a target man. He's 6'1", has really high strength. Only disappointment is he's got 89 composure, 81 balance, but with the fact that he has press proven, maybe that won't matter so much. So yeah, kind of limited as you were saying because of the lack of regular playstyles, but and the cost, as you were saying. But apart from those 5 things we pointed out, it's decent.
Minute details.
It's not bad. If you have a player from your club you want to evolve it, then I can see people doing this for sure. But then why not just make it free, right? Because it's not going to be a particularly great player.
You talk about like, or we've had like, the FUT Champs players recently, and you've had to have like a Brazilian squad or an Argentinian squad or an English squad or whatever. And like I've played for a few of those cards, and they've been cool. And the cards are actually quite good, but the ability to actually get a team I found it really difficult. Like I thought I had a good Brazilian team, and I don't. My Brazilian team is so subpar compared to what other people have. And that's assuming that I come up against somebody playing with a Brazilian team. Yet that 𝘃𝗀𝘃𝘃 Evo, if that was just like repeatable infinitely, I would just go and grow a Brazilian team and then go and play with it.
Yeah, and also having the opportunity to complete multiple evolutions at the same time.
Wouldn't that be a joy?
No, that is the like. If let's on the topic of evolutions. I don't know if we could just have it where we could complete multiple next year. Like, there's a lot of things that could use fixing, but that would feel much better.
My only concern is they would just double the game requirements. I know that sounds very cynical, but like Because originally at the beginning of the game, some of the game requirements were really, really long for some of these Evos, like 20 plus games for some of them. Whereas now they are around like 8, 9, 10. I just think the more they give us, the more games they love on it. That's just me. I agree. We should be able to do multiple, but I just wouldn't. There's obviously a reason they're not giving it to us, because it is possible, because we glitched it at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I actually think that it would still be better to be able to do multiple at the same time, just because you could then sort of think, oh, well, this evolution's out. And if I was to do this other evolution, then do that one, by that point, this player might not be so relevant to me. Whereas if I do these both now, I can put them both in my team sooner, if that makes sense. So you sort of can not get caught up by the power curve as quickly, basically, if you can do them simultaneously. So I think it would be a really good thing for them to add. I've actually got a question which somewhat relates to this we can dive into, but we'll do that just after this break. Hello, listeners. A quick reminder that this podcast is made possible through the generosity of supporters out there. And actually, they aren't just doing it out of the kindness of their heart, because you get a whole extra podcast every single week as a supporter. And you can sign up for a 7-day free trial right now over on Patreon. And after that, it's just £3 a month to continue supporting. It makes a huge difference. The podcast for a time wasn't able to be weekly because I had other work commitments, but this has made it possible to deliver a podcast every single week. And in fact, an extra one too, just for supporters, as I mentioned. So if that interests you and you want that extra content, and actually if you would like even more, there's the supporter Discord at the gold tier. There is the Hall of Fame at the end of the podcast in the icon tier. There are loads of perks available. So why not check it out if you haven't done so already by searching Support for Weekly or following the link in the description of this podcast. If you consider doing so, that would be hugely appreciated. And a big thank you to all those supporters, as I said, keeping the podcast going and keeping Foot Weekly weekly. Right, let's get back into the pod. Actually, just a quick thing to note before we get into this part of the pod. We talk about extra XP being available at the end of the season during previous seasons, but they're not being much around at the moment. Actually, there is a per game bonus of 100 XP that got added after we recorded. So there is a way to get some extra XP if you'd like to. So worth just bearing that in mind as we discuss that a little bit later on. Right, let's get into part 3. Hello, welcome back after the break. Now, the thing that I was going to say, which connects to Evos, was basically as we enter this kind of end game. I mean, we've got, a month or two of the cycle left, but we're coming towards the end of the Euros and Copa content. One of the things that's been notable is that there are various special items that are very, very good once put into Evos, but generally people don't have those players because, I don't know, they've already submitted them into an SBC or they never got them in the first place. And then they're also extinct on the market. I was just interested to know what people are doing about the special items that they have and whether they're just thinking, we're at the end of the cycle now, let's just chuck them into an SBC to get this done. Are you holding on to players for that reason? And do you kind of run your club a bit differently, I guess, at this point in the cycle? Let's come to you, Jason. What would you say to that?
So I've become a bit of a hoarder this year. Evolution's changed my kind of thoughts on how I would, manage my players. Like, for instance, I've got an 87 rated 𝘬𝘯𝘰𝗍𝘀. I've got a 92 rated 𝘬𝘯𝘰𝘍𝘀. Like, I could have used the 𝘬𝘯𝘰𝘍𝘀 in 2 Evos recently, but then I felt, I'll just wait to see if a better one comes along. So I save cards to put into Evos, and then I don't do the Evos. So it's a really weird kind of way my club's being managed right now.
Vicious cycle.
I assume it's that kind of situation where you're like, another one will come in the future. I'll just wait a bit longer. There'll be a better one. And you just kind of wait forever.
Now I've got loads of 85, 86, 87 rated special cards just sitting in my club that, because they're fodder value so low, I've never put them into an SBC. For instance, 87s are 𝗪𝗔𝗀𝘀. So in my mind, I'm just well, that's not expensive. So don't waste a potential Evo. But by the time the end of the game cycle comes, my club will be stacked of cards I never even remembered I had.
Yeah, very similar actually, especially because fodder got really cheap over Team of the Season, right? So as you say, those players that you're like, maybe I'll put them into an SBC, maybe I won't. It's now much easier to make the decision just because they have such low value. I don't know whether, Nep, you're a bit more brutal about this. I guess if you're very specific in the players you evolve, then you can be a bit more brutal.
Yeah, running certain accounts where it's dedicated to a nation or a specific entity, it's real easy to just get rid of everything. But I'm starting to, we've already had a lot of those kind of academy cards that we got, but both the Future Stars ones and the recent ones that have then been evoable like somewhere down the line, like the Orange Onslaught, you could put one of the good 87 rated academy cards into. And so I have this like weird, like, I don't want to get rid of them. And then like an icon SBC for an Arsenal player will come out, or a big art, like when Odegaard came out and Havertz came out, and I'm just like, whatever, I just want this card immediately. So I dump everything into it, and I'm like, I'm never going to use these cards anyway. And then my opinion shifts again because I like get bored of the Arsenal cards. I'm like, oh damn, I'd really love this card to go in my team now. And like now I'm going through a phase where like I really want to build teams with like real fun PlayStyle and PlayStyle Plus combinations. And I'm looking through my club for like all my tiki-taka players. I'm like, oh man, there's like these 3 that I've noticed on foot.gg that I'm like, oh yeah, I've got those. And then actually I don't have those anymore. And so I'm kind of like regretting not just hoarding more cards. But we're at that stage now. It's like last year, EA gave us so many year in review player picks. This year, none. It's like, give them back to us.
I was actually going to say that. Party bags, year in reviews, we never see them anymore.
Yeah. And that's because everyone complained about them last year because there was no utility for them. Now there's utility. Give them back to us.
They are in the store though if you want one.
Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah,
they are.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, you can get them. I mean, I guess if you've got coins to spend, maybe people will do that. But yeah, it'd be nice if there was just sort of every past SBC player we've had. I mean, maybe it would need to be slightly capped, but probably not if they get the weights right. The player of the month 𝗵𝘃𝗃 would obviously be very rare, but it'd be cool to see that just so people could get a bit of supply of these kind of evoable.
I wouldn't even want that card.
No, yeah, and obviously can't evolve him. So.
I mean, I don't really play with 𝗵𝘃𝗃 anyway, though, so it's kind of like...
Yeah, just a quick thing, actually. I know some of you, I guess I'm looking at Nep and Jason in particular here, grind the game, the objectives and things like that. And I noticed that the XP for this season has not slowed down, I guess, but in the past, we saw at the end lots of opportunities to earn quite a lot of XP so that you could catch up to some of these target players you might have in the season objective pass thing. Do we think that that's a good thing that we're not seeing that big hit of XP at the end, or what?
They actually only did that one time when the game became either cheap or free in the PlayStation Store, and it was towards the back end of the season. So for every new player that came on, they were obviously going to be so far behind. They gave them like a massive. It wasn't this season. It wasn't last season. It was the season before. But otherwise, they've been very steadfast on just giving the XP that they had designed to give, and then not given any more beyond that. I did think we would get more this season because it has become the EA Play Pro is like way cheaper now. So I guess that they would have had a massive influx of new players again. So I thought we would see it again this season, but we just haven't.
Yeah, I mean, Jason, do you think it kind of devalues the grind? Because I saw some, very committed players complaining about that last time it happened. But I don't know. I think for newer players, I guess that makes a lot of sense that you would want them to just catch up a bit. They're not going to be getting to those endgame players at the top of the tree, but they can at least get some of the lower XP requirement players.
Yeah, I've got like two sides to me, right? Like I'm a player who grinds the game a lot, right? I got both accounts to push gas, like they're...
Oh my gosh.
It's heavily reliant. It's heavily reliant on daily, weekly activities though. So like EA really want you to do your daily plays, your weekly objectives, your daily objectives and stuff. So it is a grind. So at that point, I think, well, I've earned these, so other people, should earn them too. However, it is July. I just figure you've given us probably the best season pass you've ever given us. Just let people kind of, get the players they want. I do understand why they are controlling it, because like the last 3 players are like, or 4 if you can include like 𝘂𝘂𝘁 they're like endgame players. So I can understand why they're controlling it a little, but I've always been very much like kind of like, don't gift everyone everything, but at least kind of let people catch up, because it's really strict, some of it. Some are like the play 3 games a day on your account in order to, because that's the only way you'd really hit it. So for me, I'm like, just be a bit nice, EA. Come drop like a 5k objective for people. Anyone who's at level 30 can get to level 35, because it's hard to get to 30 anyway. But let people, don't give like 15k, but like 5k will get kind of people over the line.
I tell you what I did like that they did. I think also 2 seasons ago is 50 XP per game played. For the last week.
Yeah.
In situations like this, give that, because that way, if I really, really want it, I will just grind the living hell out of the game.
True. I think it might come back. It actually might come back tonight or something like that. Because there's been a lot of talk about people not having enough XP. And XP per game is literally like the dream for EA because it just gets everyone grinding the game.
In terms of engagement, you can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah, exactly.
True. Right, before we finish off, I did want to ask, we've had the return of international tournament content. The last time we had this was, I suppose, for the World Cup. It's come in a pretty different form, I guess, and it's been a lot bigger, a lot more players involved, a lot speedier upgrades, that's for sure, and more consistent. So that's been nice. What are people's thoughts on Path to Glory, Make Your Mark, Greats of the Game? Now we're coming towards the end of it. Let's start with you, Nep. What have you made of it?
Yes, it's not bad, actually. It's not bad. It has, like, as always with the live promos, you've got a few like premium cards at the start of the promo and everyone's up in arms because, by the time we get to, these cards get usable, no one's going to care. And almost always people still care at the back end of the promo when they've been upgraded and stuff. And, you look back through some of the best promos this year and they've all been based around the live cards. So, yeah, I thought Make Your Mark was poor the way they done it, but even that has still come away with a few absolutely quality cards. They could have done more around like maybe some like gameplay related objectives and a better tournament for better prizes and few bits and bobs here or there, maybe even a Make Your Mark like Evo or whatever. But overall, I think, yes, like the thing that I don't like the most and the thing that I've missed the most, I suppose, is just the menu grind hasn't been stellar. But otherwise, I think the promo's been like pretty banging, to be fair. Yeah,
a very fair assessment. And Jason, anything to add there?
No, I'm backing up on that one. I think the promos have been pretty good. I love the fact that, the upgrades are happening the night of when the players kind of, get their upgrades. So, I mean, that's been really nice. It has actually felt like genuine, like live content. I agree, Make Your Mark was very strange. And some of the upgrades they've done on Make Your Mark haven't been consistent. For instance, like Konaté and Mendy both getting clean sheet upgrades when they didn't even play. But we won't talk about that one.
EA's French bias, yeah.
Yeah, because, they sell packs. But in general, I've actually liked the promos. I mean, the players have been good. I always like live promos anyway. I think they kind of give you added attachment to like games that you wouldn't have attachment to and that sort of stuff. So I think the promo's been good. I would have liked a proper, integrated Euro mode, like FIFA 14. I mean, I'm old, but I'll mention FIFA 14 Euro mode till I'm blue in the face. I don't think we'll ever get something like that again. But in general, I enjoyed it. I've had a good few weeks. But as Nep said, the menu grind it's like a really wavy roller coaster. It's fine when we get like the 82 pluses and then they give us the 81 pluses and then the grind just dies because, there's no fodder to do the exchange packs and stuff. But in general, it's been pretty good.
Yeah, I do think Greats of the Game was slightly ruined by the fact that seemingly only Spain and Netherlands actually want to score goals in the Euros. So it's made the upgrades totally. A little bit less fun than they perhaps could have been. And then, Spain actually scored pretty much all their goals in one game for a lot of those Greats of the Game upgrades. So there's been some sort of weird stuff that I guess EA can't really account for, but perhaps could do better to account for in future. Perhaps not having just as simple as goals for icons and heroes might have made it a bit more interesting. And I agree with both of you about Make Your Mark. I think it's a shame because the rest of it I think has been good. That Make Your Mark is just it's just been a bit meh. The upgrade's not so interesting.
It was just weird. Why didn't we just get this Path to Glory Team 2 right away after Make Your Mark and then it was just weird. Also, the card design was lame.
True.
As a whole, I like icon promos are just fun. So it was fun when the grind was there for icon promos too, because it was like, ooh, I feel like I can pack one or pack two, and like packing icons never gets old. So I guess hopefully we get some footies icons coming up. Yeah. Just no more of this like Petr Cech midfield. Like I don't know that stuff.
Yeah,
I will stop playing the game as soon as that happens, and I know it's going to happen. It's just that is always like this is the time of year where I have a hard time playing the game anyway. But that is when that hits, it's just over for me because it's not that fun.
Yeah. Let me sneak in a final question at the end here. A fun one. Rumors of Bale and Hazard being added as icons, or will they be heroes? Controversially, I'm interested to know from everyone here. what they would have those two down as. Obviously, you can choose a different one. One could be an icon, one could be a hero. Let's come to you first, Jason. I have a suspicion one of them will be an icon for you.
Well, obviously, 𝘵𝘃𝗃 is a nailed on icon, right? That's an absolute no-brainer. I mean, you could even challenge that even if you wanted to. Like, he is genuine icon material. Went to Real Madrid, won, I don't know how many Champions Leagues and that sort of stuff. So, obviously, he can't help that his national team weren't successful. So, I don't think it's fair to kind of judge off that. He done well for his national team as well, though. So I think obviously Hazard is people that kind of
not an icon.
I personally think he's an icon, and I'm a Tottenham fan. That's me saying that. I think he was ability-wise one of the best in the world for quite a while. He was, one of Chelsea's star players for many years. Again, not the most successful with his national team, but still like the top performer with his national team. It's just obviously, again, they didn't particularly perform. I just don't know how. I mean, I can understand both sides, but for me, I think it'd be very, very harsh to make him a hero. And that is coming from a Tottenham fan. I believe he is an icon.
Yeah, I think you can even take a look at almost all of the sort of like 86, 87 rated icons and just delete them all as icons and make them heroes. Maybe with the exception here or there. And maybe even a few of the other cards as well, and then leave room for icons. When icons first came into the game, they were icons, weren't they? They were so like, if you had one, it meant something. And now they've just lost that. And people do still love icons, and I love like certain icons from this season and stuff, but I just think they need to get their true value back. And the best way to do that is to make a lot of the current icons downgraded to heroes. I know there might be contractual issues there, but in the terms of Hazard and Bale, I absolutely agree that they should both be icons. Okay,
yeah. But Japes, you don't agree?
Bale icon, yes. I mean, on like pure like performance or status, Hazard I think is a tough sell for me. I think though, if you wanted to take the, hey, is there another Belgian icon? Like, I don't know. Was Hazard more than Vincent Kompany or Tevez? Like, I don't know. Hazard's a tougher sell for me because I think he just went missing for parts of his career, and because of that, he just doesn't feel like he doesn't have that like aura to me. Like, I think he had a nice pocket where he was a hero for Chelsea, but like, I don't know. That's it, kind of.
Yeah, they're going to have to make, I think, a new criteria for icons at some point, as Nep's mentioning. And I kind of feel like it should be something like, was the player considered a top 5 player in the world at any point? And I think Hazard probably was, so I would put him as an icon. Maybe you can challenge the criteria, but
so you could have one season where you're a top 5 player, and that would be enough for you.
Well, yeah, but I think people, when they say top 5 players, they are normally talking about kind of a longer range than that, right? Not just one season.
So Griezmann retires tomorrow. Would he be an icon or a hero?
Hero.
Has he ever been considered top 5 player?
He's a top 5 player,
maybe for a bit, possibly in the world though.
I think didn't he get second in the Ballon d'Or in 20 to like when Modric won?
Yeah, although Ballon d'Or is a bit misleading because defenders and midfielders hardly ever get in there, do they? So,
but people might have argued that he could have like won it that year, right? Like that's the year France won as like the most important player on that team. I don't know. I just think there's like this is like one of those like more art than science, and trying to apply science to it is really, really tricky.
Yeah, you think you're probably right. It's an interesting debate, and one we can come back to, I'm sure. I'd like Nep to do maybe you can do a full stream just categorizing every icon into a hero or icon. It'd be interesting.
Oh, I'm sure that would get me in a lot of trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you want engagement, that sounds good. But yeah, thank you very much to our guests here for coming on. We're going to head off and actually talk about game modes on the Gameplay podcast, the supporter episode this week. But we'll say our goodbyes for now, and we'll start off with Jason. Jason, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. It's been good to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. I always enjoy being on this, so thank you.
It's been good. And where can people catch you actually if they want to see your content?
Oh yeah, it's just 𝘃𝑚𝑏ro on all socials. But obviously, as you well know, I do prefer just to be called Jason.
Yeah. Well, not actually the PSG centre back, just to be completely clear. And then to Nep, thank you very much for joining us on this content pod.
No problem. Thanks for having me again.
Good to have you. And finally to Japes, always good to have you on the podcast.
Thanks, Ben. Enjoyed it.
It's been fun. And finally, of course, a big thank you to all you listeners tuning in. You can catch the podcast and subscribe to it via all the different podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you tend to get your podcasts from. And it's on YouTube. If you're listening over there, drop a like, leave a comment. It definitely does help us out. And of course, if you would like more from the pod, then you can become a supporter. Head over to Patreon. It's just £3 a month and you get double the podcast content. In fact, there's a free trial as well. Just search Support for Weekly. And if you are a supporter, a huge thank you for keeping the podcast going, including those icon patrons. Dave B, Hugh J, Darren W, Alistair M, Dom P, Rob P, Jeff B, Damon H, Tom B, Adam G, Neil P, Alex M, Jake S, Dan W, Roger D, Lee A, Andrew C, Nishant, Waterman, Dylan H, Adam R, Rob L, Brendan W, Michael K, David G, Jimmy K, Cherry Drank, John D, Michael B, Aditya S, and Joshua K. Plus a special thanks to Luke M, Dave B, Hugh J, Tom M, Darren W, and Pato Foot for advice and production assistance. Before I leave you, just one more thing to add though. Ultimate Team is a bit like life really. It has its many ups and downs. If you're having a few more downs than ups in real life in these more difficult times, then please don't feel that you're alone or need to struggle on without taking action. If you go to 𝘃𝗲𝗁𝗀𝗏.net, there's loads of resources, advice, support, or even just a friendly chat for anyone who needs it. If it sounds like it could help you, then head over to 𝘃𝗲𝗁𝗀𝗏.net. And for now, have a good one, and I'll catch you on the next podcast.